I followed Lazaro for 10 years. The brothers around him used to mock him in private for insisting on keeping a mute woman by his side. Lazaro didn't care at all. He said, "Someone who can't talk can swallow more humiliation than anyone else." Even when he started bringing new women home, I remained completely unmoved. That was when he finally lost control and went mad. What he didn't know was that I had been bound to the mute girl system. As long as I stayed by his side for 10 years without speaking a single word, I would receive one wish and 100 million in reward money. And that wish had never had anything to do with him. Chapter 1. The moment I twisted the key and opened the door, I knew something was wrong. The unfamiliar high heels scattered messily in the entryway and the chaotic living room all pointed to the same truth. I calmly crouched down and neatly arranged the shoes. When I looked up again, a graceful, alluring woman was already standing at the doorway of the bedroom I shared with Lazaro. She hooked a finger around the hair by her temple and looked at me with amused scrutiny. "A cleaner?" I didn't answer and walked straight to the study to get my things. The woman had no intention of letting me off so easily. Barefoot, she followed closely behind me, constantly using words related to Lazaro to provoke me. But I didn't care at all, because the binding period of my system was almost over. In 3 days, I would be able to leave Lazaro for good. So during this time, I had been quietly clearing out my belongings, preparing to take them with me. There weren't many important things of mine left in Lazaro's house. Taking a little each day meant he wouldn't notice. I crouched in front of the small cabinet at the very back of the study, searching for my bracelet. No matter how I looked, I couldn't find it. Suddenly, the woman behind me lifted her wrist, and a crisp clinking sound rang out. "Are you looking for this?" My heart sank sharply. When I turned around, I saw the bracelet already on her wrist. Young Master Reyes gave it to me yesterday. I even thought the quality of the jade wasn't good enough, she said with a smile, but now I suddenly think it's quite nice. Things really do feel more valuable when someone else wants them. Don't you think? Chapter 2. Lazaro. You take it, just give me back the bracelet. I typed the words on my phone and held it up in front of her. After reading it, she casually took off the bracelet and said with a hint of regret, "All right then, let's treat it as the breakup compensation young Master Reyes is giving you on his behalf." I opened my palm to take it. The next second, with a smile on her lips, she flung my bracelet high into the air. I didn't have time to think. Almost instinctively, I threw myself forward to cushion it with my body. The cabinets in the study were all solid wood. My back slammed hard against the sharp corner of the desk. The overwhelming pain made me forget how to breathe for a moment. I lay there, curled up and unable to move, clutching the bracelet I had protected at the last second before it hit the ground. The loud crash woke Lazaro, who was still asleep. He had a terrible temper when waking up. Before he even arrived, his voice came first. "What's all this noise?" His footsteps stopped at the doorway. Seeing me lying on the floor with a pale face, he let out a smug laugh. "Aren't you always so generous? I just let Cecilia stay the night, and you got jealous enough to fight with her?" The woman called Cecilia wrapped her arm around him as if claiming credit. No, I almost dropped the bracelet just now. It was this lady who lunged forward so it wouldn't shatter. "The bracelet?" Lazaro raised an eyebrow and walked over, squatting beside me. He tried to take it from my hand, but no matter what he did, he couldn't pry my fingers open. Cold sweat beaded across my forehead as I clenched my teeth and shook my head desperately at him. His expression darkened. When he was angry, he looked especially vicious. "I told you to let go." Lazaro could take anything from me, except this bracelet. We were locked in a stalemate when his peripheral vision caught my phone lying on the floor. The still-lit screen drew his attention. He released my hand and picked up the phone, slowly reading the words on it. "Explain what this means." "Lazaro, you take it?" Seeing this, Cecilia stepped forward at just the right moment to profess her loyalty. "She never truly loved you. Unlike me, there's only ever been you in my heart." Those words hit Lazaro's most sensitive nerve. Before Cecilia even realized what she had said wrong, he flew into a rage and threw her out, unleashing a violent tantrum inside the house. I had followed him for 10 years and was long used to this madman's unpredictable moods. While he was losing control, I packed up my things and prepared to leave. After kicking Cecilia out, Lazaro calmed down a little and sat on the living room sofa, lighting a cigarette. "I thought bringing someone home would at least make you jealous," He said coldly. I didn't expect you to care only about that damn bracelet. Even though my brother has been dead for 10 years, I still can't compare to a single bracelet of his. Is that it? I paused briefly at the entryway, gently shook my head, and then walked away without looking back. Chapter 3. It wasn't that one of them mattered more than the other. In my heart, there had never been any basis for comparison between the two. 10 years ago, I suddenly lost my voice and was never able to speak again. I followed Lazaro silently, always at his beck and call, no matter the time or place. I watched him drift in and out of various pleasure dens, the people around him changing batch after batch. He tried to use all of this to provoke me, yet I remained silent, just like my lost voice. That day, he was drinking with a group of spoiled rich heirs. They joked that Lazaro had rather peculiar tastes, keeping a mute woman by his side. Lazaro glanced at me, barely noticeable in the corner, and let out a scoff. It's exactly because she can't talk that she can swallow more humiliation than anyone else. Other than her. Who else could tolerate me like this? The group erupted into knowing laughter. I lowered my head even more, quietly counting down the remaining days of the system's binding. Chapter 4. I never liked Lazaro. If it weren't for that wish, I would have found it unbearable to stay by his side for even one more day. And that wish had never had anything to do with him. I took the bracelet, bought a bouquet of flowers, and drove to the martyrs' cemetery. Damien's headstone was spotless, almost without a speck of dust. Even so, out of habit, I took a handkerchief from my bag and carefully wiped the red 5-pointed star engraved on the stone. Bit by bit, he was Lazaro's half-brother. Unlike Lazaro, who was a complete and utter bastard, Damien was the best person I had ever known in my life. But for some reason, good people never seem to live long. On the day Damien died, I waited all night at Victoria Harbor. We had agreed to watch the New Year's fireworks together, but he had to cancel at the last minute after receiving intelligence from an informant. Then the fireworks erupted across the water, lighting up the entire sky. The crowd surged and dispersed, just like the fireworks themselves, fading into cold emptiness with time. Only I remained, standing there until dawn. He never came. Ben, the man who always passed messages from him to me, called later. He said Damien asked whether the fireworks were beautiful, and whether I had cried so hard that my face was a mess again. Damien was incredibly smart, so smart that he could even predict what would happen after his death. The only thing he failed to predict was my obsession. If fate insists on tearing lovers apart, on letting good people die young, then I will defy it all. Old Lee, the caretaker of the cemetery, happened to see me and greeted me. You're here again? I've been seeing you come by a lot lately. I smiled and nodded in response. Yes. In just a few more days, I'll be able to bring him home, because my wish is to bring Damien back to life. Chapter 5. After leaving the cemetery, I didn't return to Lazaro's place. Instead, I went to the small apartment Damien and I had bought together while he was still alive. The two of us had almost drained all our savings to afford this place. When Damien died, it was still nothing more than an unfinished shell. Over the years, I had lived frugally, using my salary little by little to complete the renovation. Every carpet, every table and chair, every warm light had been chosen according to the preferences we shared. As long as he came back, this place would finally become a real home. In the quiet of the night, the urgent knocking at the door sounded especially piercing. I got up and looked through the peephole, only to see Lazaro holding a bottle of alcohol. His face was flushed, his steps unsteady, shouting for me to open the door. Frowning, I immediately turned off the lights, pretending no one was home. When knocking got him nowhere, Lazaro let out a cold laugh, set the bottle down, and kicked the door hard. I leaned against the door, yet the vibration still made my heart jolt. I've been standing downstairs for half an hour already. I saw your lights on a long time ago. I know you're inside. Open the door. If you don't open it, we're breaking up. I'll count to 3. This was Lazaro's usual trick. Every time we had a disagreement or conflict, he would threaten me with a breakup. I couldn't leave him, so I always backed down. To him, this tactic never failed. 1, 2. Lazaro's countdown was like a blunt blade sawing at my heart. Only 3 days left. I couldn't break up with him now, or everything would be wasted. I took a deep breath, opened the door quickly, stepped out, and shut it behind me. If I didn't want Lazaro to come inside, then I could only go out. The lights in the stairwell flickered constantly. Most of Lazaro's face was hidden in the shadows. He stared at me with gleaming eyes, his tone noticeably lighter. I knew it. You wouldn't leave me. He was tall. With one hand, he easily pinned me into the corner behind the door. The heavy smell of alcohol made me uncomfortable. I turned my head away, avoiding his advances. Lazaro paused, then seemed to think of something and chuckled softly. What? Standing in front of my brother's place, trying to act all chaste and loyal for him to see? He had always spoken viciously. Even though I tried not to let his words get to me, I still felt the urge to slap him to death. If you ask me, you two really were a perfect match back then. One of you played the high and mighty act and refused me, then came running back to me the moment my brother died, sticking with me for 10 whole years. The other played the high and mighty act and refused to acknowledge my father, insisted on becoming some kind of cop, and ended up dead without even a body left to recover. Hope, tell me, if my brother knew down there that I still got my hands on you, what kind of expression do you think he'd have? All right, I really couldn't hold back anymore. Before Lazaro could keep talking, I slapped him hard across the face. I was shaking all over with rage. Lazaro could say whatever he wanted about me, I didn't care. But in this world, the person least qualified to judge Damien was him. Chapter 6. Lazaro Reyes grew up under the extravagant indulgence of the Reyes family's vast empire. Damien didn't. Neither did I. We both grew up in an orphanage. In my first few days there, I didn't dare speak to anyone, even though everyone there was a child. Where resources were scarce, a brutal hierarchy naturally formed. My share of food was always snatched away by children a little taller and stronger than me. They gave me the dampest, foul-smelling bedding and made me do all the filthy chores no one else wanted. As time went on, my body broke out in rashes, and I became the skinniest, sickliest child in the entire orphanage. Whenever prospective adopters saw me, they pinched their noses and walked around me. One child after another was adopted. I was always the one left behind. The headmistress looked at me, shaking her head, and gave me a new name. She said, "Let's call you Hope." Could Hope be adopted? Would Hope one day walk far away? My name was a distant, untouchable concept, and it seemed to doom my life, no matter what I wanted. I was always just a little short on luck. Then our orphanage merged with another. More children appeared, children I could never compete with, and my chances of being abandoned and bullied skyrocketed. One night, I decided to run away. I hid in grass thick with flies and insects, lying low for an entire day. The scorching sun and my parched lips drained what little strength I had left. Finally, when they gave up searching and prepared to turn off the lights for the night, my chance came. I tied strips torn from a bedsheet to the wall. Less than 20 centimeters from the top, the cloth snapped. I fell from the wall and broke my leg. I was caught anyway. After the headmistress lashed me viciously with a bamboo rod, she locked me in solitary confinement. When the punishment period ended, the one who came to take me out was a boy a few years older than me. He was far too steady for a child. His face still held traces of youth. But when he spoke, he was serious and composed. He told me, "If you want to leave this place, the first thing you need to do is give up the idea of running away." After that, he taught me how to resist, how to fight for the things that were rightfully mine. I helped him feed the stray cat in the backyard. Just as homeless as we were, he saved up an entire year's worth of labor credits just to exchange them for a birthday cake made entirely of vegetable cream for me. Gradually, I became curious about him. I asked, "You don't have any disabilities or illnesses, and you're good-looking too. How could no one want to adopt you?" He told me it was because he was waiting for his mother to come get him. Whenever adopters came, he pretended to be foolish or sick, doing everything he could to be left behind. Only that way could he wait for the day his mother returned. I grinned and said, "No one wants to adopt me either. Then let's keep each other company. Let's just say we adopt each other." Chapter 7. Until that day, when a group of people who looked unmistakably rich and powerful arrived, he pressed a bracelet into my hand and shoved me forward from behind. Instinctively, I turned around, only to see him sprint into the underground storage area without looking back. Hiding himself, The group lit up at the sight of the bracelet. Ignoring my struggle, they took me away. Later, I learned that they were from the Reyes family. Years ago, the old master of the Reyes family had a first love. They used a bracelet as a token of their promise. Later, for the sake of a political marriage, he abandoned his pregnant girlfriend and married someone else. In his later years, once he had full control of the family, guilt finally caught up with him, and he decided to look for the mother and child he had wronged. After much searching, he learned that the woman had died only a few years after giving birth, and the child had been sent to an orphanage. He didn't even know whether the child was a boy or a girl. The person the Reyes patriarch was looking for was the one who had always been by my side. That was the day I learned his name, Damian Reyes. He hated the Reyes family and refused to go with them, but he also knew that with the Reyes family's wealth and the old master's guilt, being adopted would mean a good life. So Damian pushed me forward, hoping I could take his place and live happily. But Damian was still just a child. He underestimated how cautious the Reyes patriarch was. On the very first day we returned to the Reyes household, a paternity test was done. In the end, the story concluded like this. I was sent away once again. The Reyes patriarch took back the bracelet, and Damian was dragged out of the orphanage and taken away by the Reyes family. Chapter 8. If the story had ended there, I might have considered it a kind of closure. Some warmth, once briefly possessed, can save me tens of thousands of times during countless cold, lightless nights. But if you keep holding it tightly in your palm, it will burn through flesh and bone, leaving only unbearable pain. My name is Hope, Hope who is always just a little short on luck. At 19, in order to save up tuition and living expenses, I took a leave of absence and worked at a 24-hour convenience store in Simshasui. That night, it was my turn to work the night shift. During the handover, my co-worker reminded me, things haven't been very peaceful around here lately. Be careful since you're alone. The alarm button is under the counter. I said okay, but I didn't really take it to heart. The convenience store was quiet in the dead of night, with only the ticking of the clock echoing. The doorbell rang, and out of habit, I said, "Welcome." It was only when I caught a faint scent of blood in the air that I realized something was wrong. Every nerve in my body tightened instantly. I stood behind the counter, my hand already resting on the alarm button beneath it. The man wore a dark red patterned shirt, the kind common among local street thugs, paired with a loose casual blazer. Cold sweat soaked his hair, his face pale, his expression twisted with pain. He staggered to the counter and slapped down a wad of cash. "Listen to me first," he said. His brows were tightly furrowed, yet his voice was steady. My hand on the alarm didn't move as I listened to what he said next. He lifted his gaze and fixed it on me. When he clearly saw my face, he froze for a moment. I was highly sensitive to other stares and instantly realized he was looking at the scar on my forehead. It was left from when I tried to escape the orphanage and fell off the wall. I usually hid it beneath my bangs. Very few people ever noticed it. The man fell silent. After a moment, he spoke cautiously. "Hope?" Chapter 9. Hope, so we can meet again? When fate strikes, none of us knows whether it is a blessing or a punishment. It is simply destined to happen. Damian and I had no time to reminisce. The group tailing him was already closing in. The stockroom was well hidden. I concealed him inside. The alarm button under the counter proved crucial. When they grabbed my throat and demanded to know where Damian was, I pressed the alarm with everything I had. The leader cursed loudly at the subordinate who wanted to shoot me on the spot. "Are you trying to get us killed?" Once the police lights began flashing outside, they fled the convenience store in a panic. I rushed to the stockroom and switched on the light. Blood pooled across the floor from the wound in Damian's lower abdomen. He had already passed out from the pain. I lifted his shirt, trying to give him some basic first aid using the store's supplies before the ambulance arrived. His body was burning hot. Aside from that wound, his lean waist was crisscrossed with countless old scars. Half conscious, he warned me that no matter what, I must not take him to the hospital. In the end, I brought him home and used a number he gave me to call for help. The man who arrived with a medical kit was named Ben. I was told he was Damian's brother-in-arms, someone who had been through life and death with him. He skillfully treated Damian's wounds, gave me a few instructions, and left in a hurry. And so Damian ended up staying at my place for more than half a month. We talked about many things. About the past we hadn't been part of. And the future we knew was impossible yet still hoped for. Some people see each other every day and still can't fully entrust their hearts. And some people, even after years apart, even when their faces no longer match the memory, can instantly fill every blank from the past. As if we had never been separated. Damian Reyes told me that after the Reyes family lifted his confinement, he had returned to the orphanage to look for me. But by then, I had already successfully run away. He disliked that household. He would rather be a free beggar than become a polished ornament of the Reyes family. When he came here, at first he only wanted to put as much distance as possible between himself and the Reyes family. Later, he found a cause here that he was willing to fight for his entire life, and so he stayed. I asked him what exactly he was doing. Damian said, "As you can see, collecting protection money." There was really nothing about collecting protection money that seemed worth dedicating a lifetime to. Then why refuse to go to the hospital, no matter how badly injured? Damian answered casually, "No medical insurance. Can't afford it." He was willing to answer all my questions, except these two. I wasn't stupid. Even without the truth, I could vaguely guess the reality. We shared an unspoken understanding and never brought it up again. Chapter 10. He came here to escape the Reyes family and pursue his ideals. I came here because this place offered the highest hourly wage. That 10,000 to 1 probability, something that should never have happened, somehow landed on me. For the first time, I found myself liking my name. Perhaps Damian, like me, was also quietly grateful for this twist of fate. He often came to the store with Ben to buy random odds and ends. Even choosing a pack of cigarettes would take the two of them a full hour of careful deliberation. The store manager even asked me in private whether I'd hired 2 thugs on my own initiative to be my bodyguards. At first, they only showed up around mealtimes, using it as an excuse to ask me out to eat. Later, they simply waited at the street corner in front of the store half an hour before my shift ended, appearing right at the entrance the moment I got off work. Christmas Eve, Damian sat in a rented sports car, wearing an exaggerated, flashy pair of red sunglasses. The moment I stepped out of the convenience store, he honked the horn loudly. He pushed the sunglasses up, his affectionate eyes smiling brightly at me. "Hey, beautiful, care to go for a ride?" Idiot. Who rents a convertible in the middle of winter? The biting wind taught Damian a lesson in less than 2 minutes, and he quickly put the roof up. By the harbor stood a Christmas tree as tall as a small villa. When the lights came on at night, it looked from afar as if crushed diamonds had been scattered across its branches. Before coming out, a coworker had used a curling iron to give me big waves. She said once I curled my hair, I'd turn into a fashionable Hong Kong girl and charm my boyfriend to death. Boyfriend. That word echoed in my mind over and over again. Each time made my heart pound like a drum. I didn't know whether Damian was charmed, but all night long he kept resting his chin on the top of my head, rubbing back and forth. I heard him mumble softly, "Feels like a teddy bear, obnoxious straight guy." When the clock struck 12, Damian pulled out a box from behind him and held it out to me. "Merry Christmas." I carefully opened the box. The first Christmas gift I ever received in my life was the bracelet Damian gave me. It was one of the few belongings his mother had left behind. The gift felt unbearably heavy in my hand. I didn't even dare move. It was too precious, too weighty for me to accept. Damian seemed to see through all my insecurity and embarrassment and simply stepped in front of me. In the night when the cold wind was rising, his ears were frozen red, yet his eyes remained deep and bright, branding an indelible mark into my heart. He said, "Hope doesn't have to be just a probability. It can also mean something 1 in 10,000, something precious beyond compare. It can also mean that all my joy in the world exists in the moment I see you." I told myself year after year that next year would surely be happier. At last, it came true this year. Winter is here again. Damian, let's spend it together. Chapter 11. After Christmas, Damian didn't show up for a very long time. I couldn't get through to him on the phone. Only Ben would occasionally come by the store to let me know that Damian was safe. I asked him when Damian would be back. Ben scratched his head, clearly. Damian hadn't given him a definite answer either. Days passed quietly, without waves or storms. The store brought in new co-branded products again. I was busy stacking several large boxes of goods onto the shelves. After crouching for too long, the moment I stood up, the world spun violently. My body tipped backward on instinct. Abroad, Warm hand caught me at once. Damien appeared behind me out of nowhere. It felt as though he had been there for a long time, and I was simply too slow to notice him. He just looked at me quietly. The tenderness overflowing in his eyes effortlessly erased all the distance of these past days. Overjoyed, I threw myself into his arms. The familiar scent of cedar instantly enveloped me. "Why are you here? Didn't you forget? I'm a thug now," he said lightly. "I'm here to collect some protection money from you." As he spoke, Damien wrapped me into his arms with his heavy coat and lowered his head to place a gentle kiss on my brow. From that day on, every time I stood in front of that shelf arranging goods, I would hope Damien might suddenly appear behind me again. After Damien died, this feeling only grew stronger. Even when I stood in front of similar counters in other supermarkets, I would feel the same expectation. I waited for a warm embrace. I waited for the familiar cedar scent. I turned around 10,000 times, yet not once did my wish come true. Fate had never been kind to me. Every gift that made me lower my guard was eventually taken back in an even crueler way. Chapter 12. After enduring Lazaro's drunken chaos, I called the butler at the Reyes family's old residence and had him take Lazaro back. He raved wildly, drunk and out of control. One moment he cursed at me, the next at Damien. After a while, he started cursing the Reyes patriarch for being a womanizer who had gone and produced an older brother for him. The Reyes patriarch cared deeply about appearances. Sending Lazaro back home in that state would surely earn him a harsh lesson. I took a long shower, half an hour, before the stench of alcohol clinging to Lazaro finally washed off me. I sprayed the blanket with cedar-scented perfume. This bottle was the closest match I could find to the scent Damien used to have. I wrapped myself completely in the blanket. People who walk alone through winter nights always have to find some way to save themselves. This scent made me feel safe. That night, I slept unusually soundly. I even dreamed of Damien from many years ago. It was my birthday. Damien had taken me to ride the sightseeing bus. I used to say that I'd seen the streets around Victoria Harbour thousands of times. Why waste money on a more expensive sightseeing bus just to see them again? But on my birthday, I allowed myself a bit of indulgence. By then, his appearances had already grown rare. Sometimes once a week, sometimes only once a month. Even that day, when he came out with me on the sightseeing bus, we couldn't sit side by side. Damien sat in the seat in front of me. The single Bluetooth earbud in his ear and the other half in mine played the same song. The sightseeing bus passed through dazzling, densely packed neon lights. The prosperity of Victoria Harbour had never had anything to do with me. The music shuffled to another song. Loveless souls become lonely fledglings, barely making it through hardship. In the bitter sea, at least we were not alone. We once relied on each other. Damien's presence once made me feel as though I had formed some faint connection with this world. But now, even with him sitting right in front of me, the distance between us felt greater than the many years we had spent apart before. My intuition had always been accurate. Only later did I understand that this distance was death itself. In the first half of life, we were separated by living worlds. In the second half, by death. If bitterness truly gives way to sweetness in the end, then I truly don't know what kind of sweetness could ever be worthy of such a journey of suffering. Chapter 13. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I booked a flight. I wanted to go to Victoria Harbour. I wanted to go to that convenience store in the suburbs. The closer it got to the day Damien was supposed to come back, the more uneasy I felt. The moment the plane landed, dozens of messages from Lazaro flooded my phone. In Lazaro's mind, as his girlfriend, I was supposed to be on standby 24 hours a day and reply to his messages instantly. No matter when I scrolled through them, there wasn't a single message about breaking up. Then there was no need to reply. When I got on the double-decker sightseeing bus, Lazaro, like a persistent ghost, called again. Calling a mute person, I honestly didn't know what Lazaro was thinking. Did your hands get cut off? Or did you get hit by a car and end up unconscious in a hospital? Not replying to a single message. Hope. Have I been spoiling you too much lately? All of a sudden, I felt that Damien owed me quite a lot. For his sake, I had actually endured his foul-mouthed lunatic of a brother for 10 whole years. Lazaro kept talking to himself on the other end of the line. When I remained silent, he suddenly snapped. Are you mute? Say something. After that outburst came a deathly silence. At that moment, Lazaro's short-circuited brain finally kicked back into gear. He cleared his throat twice. Remember to reply to me. Send me your current location, I'll come find you. Chapter 14. Even if I don't proactively send my location to Lazaro, it won't take long before he finds me on his own. Just like 10 years ago. In fact, the first time we met wasn't even on the mainland. Lazaro's silhouette looked very much like Damien's. So much so that when I saw Lazaro for the first time, I mistook him for someone else. He was standing in front of the candy shelf. A coworker subtly signaled me to look over. Your little boyfriend is here again. I felt a surge of joy and walked over, patting him on the shoulder. Not out collecting protection money today? When the man turned around, the completely different face from Damien's left me stunned. His eyes were nothing like Damien's. When Lazaro looked at someone, he never bothered to hide his intentions or ambition. His gaze made me uncomfortable. I apologized and turned to leave. Suddenly, Lazaro grabbed me, studying me with interest. Wrong person? Yes, I'm very sorry, sir. Judging by your accent, you're from the north, right? I nodded, only wanting to get away as quickly as possible. So am I, and I have an older brother who is too. He ran off here on his own. Maybe you mistook me for him. Just as I was thinking there couldn't possibly be such a coincidence, Damien appeared. He rushed over and forcibly pulled me away from Lazaro, shielding me behind him as if facing an enemy. What are you doing here? It was the first time I had ever heard Damien speak in such a stern tone. The two of them stood on edge, tension crackling in the air like gunpowder. Lazaro leaned lazily against the shelf, looking at the two of us and laughing. Just came to see what kind of good life my illegitimate big brother is living over here. He tilted his head toward me behind Damien and slid his business card under a bar of chocolate on the shelf. Little girl, people climb upward in life. You'd be better off coming with me. Remember to call me. Chapter 15. Lazaro was my natural nemesis. From the moment he appeared here, everything quietly began to change. The injuries on Damien's body grew more and more frequent, and he went out more often than before. I knew it meant his missions were becoming increasingly dangerous. The worst time. Ben called me and told me to come to a private hospital. Standing outside the ward, Ben told me to brace myself, even though I nodded in agreement. The moment I saw the person lying motionless on the bed, the defenses I had built so carefully collapsed in an instant. Damien's face was deathly pale. Not a trace of color left. He looked like he was sleeping, yet also like he was dead. I was completely at a loss, panic robbing me of all direction. I collapsed onto the white blanket and broke down sobbing, until even Ben couldn't stand it anymore. He knocked on the door and said to Damien with an exasperated look, "Are you done acting crazy yet?" I froze, lifting my head just in time to meet Damien's triumphant, scheming gaze. I was furious with him. A joke taken this far was crossing the line, even if the one making it was Damien. But that time, Damien really had almost died. He'd been rushed to the hospital with severe injuries and was dragged back from the brink of death by sheer luck. Seeing that I genuinely intended to ignore him, Damien grew anxious. Even a small movement tugged at his wounds, making him grimace in pain. In the end, I gave in and let out a sigh. From now on, before you do anything dangerous, you have to tell me first, and you're not allowed to fake your death to scare me ever again. In truth, I already had a rough idea of what he was doing, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him to stop. Damien didn't belong to me alone. He was a hero meant to protect many people. Damien nodded solemnly. Then, are you free on New Year's Eve? Yes. Let's meet at Victoria Harbor. I have something very important to give you. All right, I'll be there. Chapter 16. On my way back from the hospital, a black sedan blocked my path. Lazaro rolled down the window, propping his head on his hand as he looked at me. You wouldn't call me no matter what, so I had no choice but to come find you myself. From the very first time we met, Damien had warned me to be careful of his younger brother. Lazaro was deeply calculating. Whatever his brother liked, he wanted to steal. His pathological obsession with winning had long since blinded him. I couldn't be bothered to respond to Lazaro's latest olive branch, thrown out yet again for the sake of his ridiculous need to win. He smiled as he watched me walk away, then shouted after me, "Let's make a bet, you'll regret this very soon." Lazaro was right. A month later, I went to find him. I followed shamelessly at his side. Because Damien was dead. That day, Ben handed me Damien's letters. Before every mission, they would write a will for their families. Damien's letters were always written only for me, because he had no other family. There was a thick stack of them. Each letter marked a moment when he had faced life and death. In so many moments I had never known about. I had almost lost him, and this last time, Damien was just a bit short on luck, and never made it back to my side. Ben said the final will was recorded as an audio message. Because the mission had been rushed, the background noise on the recording was chaotic. It took a long time before Damien finally spoke. Hope, I'm sorry. I broke my promise again. These days must have kept you on edge. I feel terribly guilty, but I thought that when I came back this time, I could finally tell you properly what I've been doing. Hope, since I won't be coming back, I'll tell you here instead. I'm a police officer. 2 years ago, we discovered collusion between illegal traders, gangs, and drug traffickers in this area. To wipe them out completely, the team sent me undercover as a street thug. We've already taken down 4 of their bases. There's only 1 left. Once this mission is over, I'll file a report and take a proper break. Let's go back to our hometown together. I'll cover your tuition. I even bought a place back home. It was meant for you. I pulled out the property deed that had been pressed beneath the stack of letters. Damien suddenly let out a soft laugh. After all, your household registration is over there. It'd be hard to move it here. I couldn't hold it in anymore and laughed through my tears. Then we'll renovate together. Buy furniture we like together. And live together. Damien took a deep breath, sounding a little nervous. Hope, I like you. The recording ended. Standing amid the crowd, I listened to that final sentence again and again. Victoria Harbor never snows. But all of a sudden, I felt that at this moment, there should have been a great flurry of falling snow to speak on my behalf, accusing this unfair world for letting good people die young. Chapter 17. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to defy fate and bring Damien back. On the final day of the task, I waited beside the clock for the strike of midnight. The pendulum swung. 12 o'clock passed. I immediately sent Lazaro a breakup message and blocked him everywhere. At dawn, I asked Ben to meet me. The truth buried for 10 years was finally due for vindication. I placed a USB drive in front of him. Inside was conclusive evidence that 10 years ago, Lazaro had colluded with gang members and drug traffickers, leaking police operation intelligence. That idiot Lazaro. Did he really think that for 10 years by his side, I was nothing more than a mute punching bag? Back then, something had already felt off to me. Lazaro Reyes's appearance and the things he said were far too coincidental. I endured for 10 years, and I investigated for 10 years. The Reyes family had been rotten to the core long ago. Ever since the old Reyes patriarch started losing his clarity and Lazaro took control of the family, the entire empire had become gilded on the outside and rot within. Not only did I uncover proof that he had been a traitor, I also dug up extensive evidence of bribery involving the Reyes family. Whether in criminal court or a military tribunal, Lazaro wouldn't escape severe punishment. Ben clutched the USB drive to his chest. A man over 6 feet tall broke down and cried silently in front of me. Thank you. Justice stands clear. Good people shouldn't die in vain. Chapter 18. That madman Lazaro. After I blocked all his contact information, he flew over and tracked me down in person. He reused the same old trick, blocking me on the street with his car. I turned to leave. He got out, took a few quick steps, and locked his arms tightly around my waist. Why are you breaking up with me? How could you possibly bring yourself to leave me? His breath brushed against my ear, sending a chill through my entire body. I struggled free, turned around, and slapped him hard across the face. Lazaro wasn't prepared. The blow sent him staggering, nearly losing his balance. He covered half his face, staring at me in disbelief. Hope, why? I took a deep breath and said calmly, save your questions for your lawyer. I think you're about to be very busy. Lazaro focused on the strangest detail. He barely listened to what I said, instead rushing forward in delight and grabbing my shoulders. Hope, you can talk now? When the system first came to me with this task, it allowed me to choose one side effect. I chose silence. With some people, Even one extra word is too much. With others, 1,000 words are still not enough. Lazaro belonged to the former. I had nothing to say to him, so I chose to be mute. I slowly pried his fingers off me, one by one. Then, word by word, I said, "Not only can I speak now, when we get to court, I'll testify with everything I have. Traitor, you'd better be prepared to rot in prison." Lazaro frowned, looking as though I had wounded him deeply. "Hope, I don't understand. We were fine just days ago. If you're angry about me giving your bracelet away, I apologize. I just wanted a little more of your attention. Hope, can we stop doing this? Come back with me. Let's live properly together." People who have committed unforgivable crimes have no right to speak of living properly. If even someone like Lazaro could live well, that would be the greatest injustice of all. I hate Lazaro, with a hatred that grinds my teeth to dust. He never sensed my hatred before, so now he only thinks I'm throwing a tantrum. But every silent night, I have been restraining the monstrous hatred in my heart, resisting the urge to stab the man lying beside me to death, because that wouldn't have been worth it. A hatred brewed for 10 years had long since become an inseparable part of me. Lazaro, humans can't fall in love with beasts, and you're not even worthy of being called one. Chapter 19. Public security here is far better than it was 10 years ago. Lazaro's pulling and grabbing quickly attracted the police. I managed to break free and shake him off. Because today, I had something far more important to do. The system said that on the day it snowed at Victoria Harbor, Damien would return. So I waited for him at Victoria Harbor. The prosperity here was the same as ever. I knew this peace and abundance had been bought with the lives of countless people like Damien. So, 10 years of hope, in exchange for Damien's life, was more than worth it. But Victoria Harbor never snows. I stood there from afternoon until night. The distant chimes of a clock rang out. The first day after the task's completion had ended. Damien still hadn't appeared. The money from my voice and my card had already arrived. Only Damien hadn't. The cold left my hands and feet stiff and numb. A patrol officer reminded me not to stand there for too long. I smiled and answered, "I'll leave once I pick up my husband." "Damien, you promised. You said once the task was over, you'd take a long leave and come back with me. You said we'd renovate the house together. Now I've already finished all the renovations. I think you'll like the color we painted the walls. If you prefer staying here and don't want to go back north, that's fine too. I'm very rich now. I have 100 million, so much money. Buying another small apartment here wouldn't be bad at all, don't you think? Damien, I miss you." Chapter 20. I stayed here for a while. Every day, I went to walk around Victoria Harbor, hoping that each passerby brushing past me might be him. The weather gradually began to warm. Forget snow, even rain became rare. But life still had to go on. I didn't want Damien, when he returned, to be met by a sickly, lifeless hope. I walked with my head lowered through the flowing crowd. When I looked up, the sky was clear for miles. It didn't matter. I was good at waiting. 10 years, or decades, either was fine. Turning a street corner, a boutique I'd never seen before caught my eye. The shop was beautifully decorated, in a Danish style. At its entrance stood a small artificial snow machine. Fine. Light flakes drifted down into my palm. If you were real, how wonderful that would be. I blew the snow from my hand and continued walking. The phone in my coat pocket rang. I took it out. It was an unfamiliar out-of-town number. "Hello?" There was no response. It was completely quiet. "Hello?" Just as I was about to hang up, a familiar voice came through the receiver. "Hey, beautiful. Care to go for a ride?" Victoria Harbor has no snow, but this snowfall had lasted 10 years in my heart. And at this moment, it finally stopped. After the snow, the sky cleared. From this day on, every day would be good weather.